Helps when the mic isn't muted. Okay, there we go. Hi, how's it going? Helps when the mic isn't muted. I'm trying this. Okay, there we go. Hi, how's it going? Streaming thing in trying this places. Let me mute myself out there for streaming thing in trying this places. Let me mute. There we go. Good. Okay, now I'm not getting looped back. Let me share this out real quickly. Okay, there we go. That should work. Okay, I'm going to hide some tabs here so that I'm not going so crazy. Okay, and yes, this doesn't make much sense, but for my workspace, everything that I'm doing is over here to the right. So when I look at the camera, it's going to be this way, but I can't angle the camera that way because it would, yeah, it wouldn't look good. Anyway, so that's what's going on here. So anyway, I'm more interested in having you see what is going on with my screen anyway. So let me get my Discord out of the way here real quick. And there we go. Let's switch over. Okay, so I'm about well, I'm maybe a third of the way through on this one. So I've got everything set up. This is a video podcast edit that I'm doing. Solo casts are a little bit hard sometimes. If you haven't ever dealt with one, they tend to have a bit of a okay, I've got to do that over again type thing relatively regularly. So that's what we're dealing with this one. It's just a little bit of cleanup work, nothing too terribly major. But yeah, it's a great podcast for that. So I expect that you will, and just to recap for anyone watching this in the future, because nobody's streaming right now, or nobody's viewing right now, I am fully on the Apple side of things. So you'll see me use RX8 to prep my audio, and whether I'm doing video or audio, I will prep in RX with the audio files, or extract audio from the video using RX to get the cleanest, best sounding audio that I can, and then I will merge that with the video in Final Cut. And if I need to, I will sometimes send the audio to Logic from Final Cut. If I'm doing an audio edit only, I am going to edit that primarily in Logic. Every now and again, I will use functions in Audacity because they're unique and they're simple, but that's pretty much it. So that's a really basic recap of kind of my general workflow, but that's pretty much it. I keep my tools, my toolboxes relatively simple. I would not call these my tools because the tools are like my plugins, like Vocal Writer and everything else, which I do definitely employ from Waves and others. So anyway, that said, let's dive on in. Let's get this done. This is only 20-ish minutes long, so it really shouldn't take too terribly long to clean it up, but it will need a little bit of cleanup. If you are tuning in, please chime in the comments. I'd love to hear from you, get to see what your thoughts are on all of this and all of that. So please feel free to chime in the comments if you have any questions or concerns. Love to hear from you. Okay, that said, let's go ahead and Dig in.
Some picture of made in his image and likeness, male. Now, I want to point something out that might be foreign to you. This is something that's not often spoke of or highlighted. And I want to talk about it right now because we've been talking about this pattern, how man is made in the image and the likeness of God. And I want to say something about the image and the likeness. Each word in the original Hebrew has a genitive to it. That means that word is either masculine or feminine. And when we look at the word image, it is a masculine word. It speaks to the masculinity of God that's placed within Adam. We also see this word likeness. And this word likeness has a female component to it. And we know that Eve is within Adam, hidden in his side to be pulled out when Adam falls into sleep. So we have an awesome picture of made in his image and likeness, male and female, hidden within the rib of Adam, which is later pulled out, and God creates Eve out of Adam's side. And we have a picture of the church within Jesus. We know in Colossians, it talks about that we are hidden with Christ. We are hidden in Christ. And we have that similar picture of the church being within the side of Jesus. What an amazing typology and shadow from Genesis that becomes a New Testament reality. But what I want to focus on here is image and likeness. And there's something you may have never seen before that I want to point out. So man is made in the image and likeness of God. However, after Adam sins, after man sins, something happens with the offspring of Adam. And I want to point out. So man is made.
So while I don't need to make a major cut there, I'm going to go ahead and chop out just a tiny bit, and then we're going to pull focus there, make a visual point.
Image and likeness. And there's something you may have never seen before that I want to point out. So man is made in the image and likeness. Point out. So man is made in the image and likeness of God. However, after Adam sins, after man sins, something happens with the offspring of Adam. And we can read about it in Genesis chapter 5. And I'm going to read just the first 3 verses to you and see if you've seen this before. Okay, so in Genesis 5, 1 through 3, this is what it says. This is the book of the generations of Adam in the day when God created man. He made him in the likeness of God. He created them male and female, and he blessed them and named them man in the day they were created. Verse 3, when Adam had lived 130 years, he became the father of a son in his own likeness according to his image and named him Seth. Guys, did you see that? It says that Adam became a father of a son in his own likeness and in his own image. We're talking about the image of Adam. No longer is Adam's offspring, no longer is the human race embodying the image and likeness and character of God, but now we see we are patterned after fallen Adam. Because Seth, his son, was born in his own likeness, in Adam's likeness, and according to Adam's image. We're talking about a fallen image and a fallen. Because Seth, his son, was born in his own likeness, in Adam's likeness, and according to Adam's image. We're talking about a fallen image and a fallen likeness. So Adam's children are not made in God's image. Fallen image and a fallen likeness. So Adam's children are not made in God's image, but Adam's image and the image and likeness of fallen man. Ever since the fall, man departed God's plan and is no longer created in God's likeness and image. This is the Adamic nature from Adam, the Adamic nature and sinful nature. And this is why we have all fallen short, because we inherit this nature And it's also known as our natural man. If we look throughout scripture, we're going to see the flesh, we're going to hear about the natural man, and this is all inherited from the nature of Adam, that fallen condition, because man rebelled against God. And we could say it this way: the first Adam failed. If you're listening to this, you are pursuing failed. If you're listening to this, wait, the first Adam failed. If you're listening to this, you are pursuing this thing called manhood. You're listening to this show right now because you want to step into biblical masculinity, because you know you're created and you know you're called to be more than where you are right now. And I want to tell you, God, from the very beginning, has been after this thing called manhood. He has been committed to this thing, this perfect idea of manhood and what a man should be. Ever since the creation account, this has been God's ideal, that man would live up to this design that he was created.
Sorry, got tagged on Facebook and had to check to see what it was. And it was Podcast Editors Club, which, if you're interested in podcast editing and you want to know about more what you can do, and I learn new things there every single day, that's definitely the place to be. Podcast Editors Club. Steve Stewart does an awesome job of heading that up. Anyway, back to this.
This thing, this perfect idea of manhood and what a man should be. Ever since the creation account, this has been God's ideal, that man would live up to this design that he was created for. I could say it another way. Let's say it like this: God is looking for a man. He was looking for a man in the garden, and then he creates Adam in his image and likeness. And ever since that time, despite Adam's fallen nature, God continues through the pages of history to look for a man. His eyes are roaming to and fro throughout the Old Testament, searching and seeking. God is looking.
Hearing something audio here that I just don't like at all. So I'm going to, dang it, if I chop this up. Okay, I'll fix it in post. That's all of what I do, of course.
Old Testament, searching and seeking. God is looking for a man. So I want to highlight 3 examples of biblical men from the pages of the Old Testament, and we're going to look at something they all have in common. And what we're going to see here is a picture that God, throughout the Old Testament, is that God throughout the Old Testament. And what we're going to see here is a picture that God throughout the Old Testament is that God through and what we're going to see here is a picture that God
Right up on in there.
have in common. And what we're going to see here is a picture that God through the Testament, and we're going to look at something they all have in common. And what we're going to see here is a picture that God throughout the Old Testament.
I am going to add a very small cross solve there, but it's almost flawless. He did a very good job of staying perfectly still. Okay, just a couple frames, soften that cut.
Pages of the Old Testament, and we're going to look at something they all have in common. And what we're going to see here is a picture that God throughout the and what we're going to see here is a picture that God throughout the
Yeah, nobody's going to know. Conversations going on in the club right now.
Out the Old Testament is looking for a man. The first person that I want to highlight is Moses. Moses steps on the scene. We can read about him in Genesis. We see the Exodus account. He is the mighty deliverer. Let's go over a couple highlights from the life of Moses. He's educated in the courts of Egypt for 40 years. He spends 40 years in the wilderness. It's a formation period where he's getting God's character. There's a Moses steps on the for a man. Out the Old Testament is looking for a man. The first person that I want to highlight is Moses. Moses steps on the scene. We can read about him in Genesis. We see the Exodus account. He is the mighty deliverer. Let's go over a couple highlights from the life of Moses. He's educated in the courts of Egypt for 40 years. He spends 40 years in the wilderness. It's a formation period where he's getting God's character. There's a breaking and there's a making of this man called Moses. There's 40 years after that leading the children of Israel through the wilderness. Also wrote 5. Moses also
Shorten that cap there here real quick. I'm just going to cross this off that one.
Leading the children of Israel through the wilderness. Moses also wrote 5 books of the Bible. The first 5 books of the Bible, known as the Torah, those were penned by Moses under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit. Moses met with God on a mountain. He delivered the law. He saw God's physical and visible glory as he passed by. However, despite all these accomplishments and everything that Moses was permitted to do and that he entered into, he fails to bring Israel into the promised land. And I want to share one verse here from Deuteronomy. And I want to share one verse here. And I want to share one. Fails to bring Israel into the promised land. And I want to share one verse here from Deuteronomy 32. Because you broke faith with me in the midst of the sons of Israel at the waters of Meribah, Kadesh, in the wilderness of Zin, because you did not treat me as holy in the midst of the sons of Israel, for you shall see the land at a distance, but you shall not go there, into the land which I am giving the sons of Israel. This is the Lord speaking to Moses, saying, you did all these things well. However, because you lost your temper, because you sinned, you will not see the fulfillment. You will not walk into the promised land. And we have this picture of Moses falling short. So despite the call on the life of Moses, he was incomplete. He was imperfect. Created unto the Lord. And as a boy, the Spirit of physical strength. And we have this picture of Moses falling short. So despite the call on the life of Moses, falling short. So despite the call of Moses falling short. So despite the call on the life of Moses, he was incomplete. He was imperfect. He was imperfect. God is still looking for a man. Let's fast forward to a biblical character I'm sure you're familiar with, Samson, a strong man. An angel shows up at Samson's birth to his barren mother who cannot have children, and the angel ordains his birth and calls him consecrated as a Nazarite, which means to be separated, to be devoted, and to be consecrated unto the Lord. And as a boy, the Spirit of the Lord begins to stir Samson. The Spirit of the Lord comes upon him mightily when he tears the lion apart with his bare hands. This man is empowered and endued with supernatural physical strength, endowed with a supernatural gift connected to the vow he made to the Lord from when he was young. When he...
Big gap there. Let's get that fixed.
Physical strength, endowed with a supernatural gift connected to the vow he made to the Lord from when he was young. When he slayed the Philistines and wrestled with the lion, the Bible says the Spirit of the Lord came upon Samson. The Lord specifically anointed him for this purpose and for this calling. And I just want to insert right now, there is a calling and there is a purpose on your life. All men have a call on their life. If you want to go back and review this in episode 1, what is... All men have for this calling. And I just want to insert right now, there is a calling and there is a purpose on your life. All men have a call on their life. If you want to go back and review this in episode 1, what is success for the kingdom man? I dropped the concept that there is a mountain for every man. That's you right now, wherever you are listening to this or watching this. That is a call for you. There is a mountain for you to step into it. And this show is going to be about guiding you and laying down biblical principles and kingdom frameworks so you can step into your purpose. Now, what we see as we look at the life of Samson, that God's raising up and using Samson to showcase strength being related to his consecration. This thing of being set apart for the purposes of God. However, in this story, like many men, Samson falls. He falls for a harlot, and then he marries a woman who he was told not to marry from another tribe. And in this marriage, he gives up his secret and violates his... Then he marries a woman who he was told not to marry from another tribe. And in this marriage, he gives up his secret and violates his vow. And this story ends tragically. And we see that Samson left a legacy. However, he falls short in other areas. Let me read you this powerful verse in Judges 16 about Samson. but he did not know that the Lord had departed from him. Then the Philistines seized him and gouged out his eyes, and they brought him down to Gaza and bound him with bronze chains. And he was a grinder in the prison. Here is the picture, guys. He was a grinder in the prison. Here is the picture, guys. In the prison. Here is the picture.
That's way too tight.
And he was a grinder in the prison. Here is the picture, guys. Samson's got a call in his life. He does amazing things. He leaves a partial legacy, but he is, like Moses, incomplete. There's a dog over my head. A dog over my head. But he is, like Moses, incomplete and imperfect. He leaves a partial legacy, but he is, like Moses, amazing things. He leaves a partial legacy, but he is, like Moses, incomplete. Amazing things. He leaves a partial legacy, but he is like Moses. He leaves a partial legacy, but he is, like Moses, incomplete and imperfect. God is still looking for a man. God is still. Okay, almost done, Chris. Incomplete and imperfect. God is still looking for a man. And imperfect. God is still looking for a man. The last biblical character I want to highlight right now is David. And we will explore the life of these men in future episodes and talk about. No, let me not say that. Quick break.
Hello. Sorry, I got a random phone call from an 800 number, and of course my phone is in use, so I was trying to answer via my computer, and it didn't want to work for me. Well, their loss. I hope. this down here real quickly. There's a podcast editors group started by Chris Curran and the Locals website, and he shares some of his funny or interesting things every now and again. So here's a video from him. It would help if I set up the output again. I switched it over to accommodate the phone call, but it's helps to set it properly. Okay, there we go. Let's start over again. It's still interesting.
An interesting thing that happened about an hour and a half ago this morning. I was running a session for a client, and they were interviewing a guest on Riverside, and I was there running the session. And literally at the very end, when they said goodbye to the guest, and I heard the guest say, "Hey, thanks for having me," literally my entire computer just popped and went off. My computer just completely went dark and just shut off. And my interface as well, my MixPre 6. And I was like, oh my God, because I didn't know if I was going to lose the recordings. And all right, here's a little wind. Anyway, it's a nice day here in Colorado Springs. So, of course, I'm hurrying. I'm like trying to restart my computer, and it's starting to come on, and then my interface was coming on, and I was like, okay, let's see. I was hoping I could just jump back into the session, but of course, I was running Audio Hijack on my computer, so that obviously closed and stopped recording. And then on my MixPre 6, I was recording backups, and that died and stopped recording. But, Riverside was going to be the main files for the recording, right? So anyway, I logged in. My browser started to load. It asked me if I wanted to restore the pages from before. And I said yes. And it didn't restore. They kind of came up. The tabs I had open came up, but it didn't restore. So on the Riverside page, I hit refresh a few times, and it wasn't really loading. And then it actually loaded. And all of a sudden, I'm back in the Riverside session. And by the way, I was only away for like probably 2 minutes, but it felt like an eternity. Anyway, I was back in the session, and I heard the host talking to the guest, but they had clearly finished the episode. Everything in Riverside was still recording, and I could tell they were done with the episode. So I hit stop in Riverside, and then I unmuted myself, and I told everybody, "Hey guys, just before you log off, let's make sure the files upload, right?" So, and then within 15 seconds, 20 seconds, the files were uploaded, and I was like, "Okay, we're good." And afterwards, of course, I brought the Riverside recordings into some software, into RX, to look at it. They looked fine, they sounded fine, and I was like, "That's cool." And I'm sure, actually, I don't know if Squadcast or Zencastr would perform that way. But Riverside having me drop off as the creator of the session, meaning it was my Riverside session that I was running, and I'm the one who dropped off. But then I reconnected and everybody was still there. Recording was still happening. I downloaded the files. The files were completely intact and fine. And I was like, man, that's pretty cool. So anyway, I had to tell you that story, right? My arm's getting tired, man. Let me switch hands. So I had to tell you that story. And the other thing is, for the supporters, yesterday I posted a video about the Abbey Road TG mastering plugin, which is really cool. So really awesome group. I wasn't touching anything. It just gone.
Yeah. This is a cool little subgroup that I enjoy. Chris has a lot of experience, and he's a wealth of knowledge and tells interesting stories, as you see. Riverside is what I use currently to record almost everything, and I absolutely love it. Okay, let's dig back in. This was a little 5-minute break that I needed. Okay.
Through the kingdom of Israel. He fights the Philistine and cuts off the head of the giant. He goes through a process and formation of character on his way to the throne himself. At one point, he even has a chance to take out Saul, the king who is dealing with him unjustly. But David decides, I will not touch him because I won't touch the Lord's anointed, even though it's spoken over David's life that he is to ascend to the very throne that Saul is on right now. David's also known as a man after God's own heart. But David falls and David fails. He lusts after Bathsheba, another man's wife. He gets her pregnant, and then he kills her husband. And this is what the scripture says in 2 Samuel. But the thing that David had done was evil in the sight of the Lord. You know, David's interest had done was evil in the sight of the Lord. You know, David's interesting, guys, because he's got so many elements and aspects and character attributes of biblical masculinity, this thing of manhood that David really embodies. And his life is worth David really embodies. And his life is worth masculinity, this thing of manhood that David really embodies. And his life is worth further study as we look into it. But for right now, we see that he's got this character attribute that God's attracted to. But at the same time, David, like Moses and like Samson, is incomplete and imperfect. God is still looking and imperfect. God is still looking for a man. Throughout the Old Testament, guys, I can keep going. There's more. We can name after name after name of men who brought forth, showcase, and highlight an attribute of biblical masculinity, of true manhood that God was after, because ever since the garden, God is looking for a man. And I want to show you this. Okay, pause that. After God is looking for a man. If I fast forward to Hebrews chapter 11, there's a chapter. If I fast forward to Hebrews, we read about God was after, because ever since the garden, God is looking for a man.
It's very helpful when he tells me when to go back to.
God is looking for a man. If I fast forward to Hebrews chapter 11, also known as the Hall of Faith, we read about as the Hall of Faith. also known as the Hall of Faith. We read about many powerful biblical examples: Abel, Enoch, Noah, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Joseph, Moses, and Joshua, Samson, and David. And we see that they each have an attribute of this perfected manhood, of this, nope, scratch that. And they each have an attribute that they each have an and they each have, and we see and they each have an attribute Samson and David, and they each have an attribute in Joshua, Samson, and David, and they each have an attribute and characteristics of manhood, but they fall short with the fullness that God wanted to bring into the earth. They fall short from meeting the standard that God had originally designed man for. None were complete. They failed in certain areas. Designed man for. None were complete. They failed in certain areas, and they left us a legacy with other characteristics that can be highlighted, studied, and certainly attracted the favor of God in their life, but they were incomplete and imperfect pictures of what you and I are called to be as biblical men. In Isaiah chapter 50, biblical men. In Isaiah chapter 59, the Old Testament, here's a powerful verse. And he saw, this is speaking about God, he saw that there was no man and was astonished that there was no one to intercede. Then his arm brought salvation to him, and his righteousness upheld him. And what we have here is a prophetic and what we have here upheld him. And what we have upheld him. And what we have him. And what we have what we have and what we righteousness upheld. And what we have here righteousness upheld him. And what we have here upheld him. And what we have here righteousness upheld him. And what we have here righteousness upheld him. And what we have here is a prophetic picture of no man
Zoom out that far.
no man that can level up, no man that can live up, no man that can fulfill that picture of biblical manhood, that picture of a prophetic picture of no man that can level up, no man that can live up, no man that can fulfill that picture of biblical manhood, that picture of a man, that level and standard for manhood that you and I were originally called to live up to. called to live up to. So, guys, after the close of the Old Testament, we see a period of 400 years of silence. God is no longer speaking. And when he does decide to speak again, and when the book is open and we pick up in the New Testament in Matthew chapter 1, verse 1, we are going to get the unfolding and the next level in this drama of God's story of Jesus revealing, of God revealing of Jesus, of
Let's see how close I can get this.
next level in this drama of God's story of God revealing
That looks and sounds pretty decent.
in this drama of God's story of God revealing
Perfect.
and unveiling Jesus as the standard for manhood. I go into this deep in my book called The
Okay. He redid a closing, and I need to find out where he kind of picked up from.
Hey guys, so there you have it. God is looking for a man, and
I think all of this.
Jesus as the standard for manhood. I go into this deep.
Widen that out just a hair.
As the standard for manhood. Hey guys, so there you have it. God is looking for a man, and everyone before Jesus sets on the stage. Hey guys, so there you have it.
Steps on the stage.
Standard for manhood. Hey guys, so there you have it. God is looking for a man. He's looking for a man, and man has been searching for that missing part of him ever since Adam sinned in the garden. On next week's show, we're going to get into how Jesus sets the standard for men, but I want to talk to you for a minute right now. If you don't know Jesus, or you're listening to this, you call yourself a Christian, but you know you're not living right, you're not following him as a disciple, and you're not in alignment with who you're called and created to be. Guys, it is a fruitless endeavor to try and fill that void in your life with personal development, to fill it with promotions and climbing the ladder at work, to fill it with starting another business and making more money and putting more in the bank account, or buying more stuff, more status symbols, getting the boat in the driveway, the new sports car, whatever that might be for you. These things lead to nothing. They lead to emptiness and shallow pursuits based in selfish ambition. If you want substance in your life, if you want to know what God really created and called you to be, what he created you for, what your design is, then I want to invite you to watch and listen to the next episode where we will talk about and break down episode where we're going to the next episode where we will to the next episode where we will talk about and break down how Jesus sets the standard for all men, for you and for me. We will be going into all the details on that on the next show. Until then, let's raise the standard.
Okay.
Raise the standard.
Perfect. Love it. Okay.
God is looking for a man.
Okay. So the next thing that I need to do is color grade this because I didn't do it earlier and it needs it. So I'm going to adjust the exposure a little bit. Yeah, there we go. That's a little better. Get those mid-tones. He added some lighting recently, and while his camera does a wonderful job at it, it does. Yeah. Okay, that's better. Let me try to white balance it. Okay. That looks pretty darn good to me. Okay, so we are going to copy, because I have all of this. Well, wait, I need to do one other thing. The other thing that I can do, I was hearing this just like every word that he was speaking, there was just this little hiss, little distortion, and the thing that I didn't run on this when I was processing was no, still no, I don't see the plugin for it, at least that I'm wanting. He just kind of has this quality of his voice right now, or in this particular instance, that I'm not liking, and so I'm gonna declip it again. I think I did it somewhat successfully when I was processing the audio, but it obviously didn't work. So let's see here, and helps set the roll correctly. Still have that going, which is good. Let's run it pretty aggressively. It can't really hurt the audio that much.
Was in his mind when he created Adam, the first man. And just because Adam chose to rebel does not mean that God gave up on his plan.
Let's go back to the beginning.
God is looking for a man.
It's a little better. It still sounds distorted. It sounds hissy, which I don't like at all. Let's use a simple nope. It's like, nope, don't need to do anything on this, which is interesting because, well, I think it does, but whatever. Okay, so now we're going to copy, because my intent is to highlight all of the rest of the clips from start to finish. There we go. If I do a special paste command, it allows me to paste the effects. Only it didn't copy the audio effect here, which is weird. Let's try that again. There we go. Okay. all of it. Okay. Done. Okay. Let's see how it sounds. Oh, let it refresh its wave.
Perfect idea of manhood and what a man should be. Ever since the creation account, this has been God's idea.
It's okay. It's still not like super happy with it. It sounds a little flat. I took out some low end earlier, but I'm thinking I shouldn't have. Raise all that up a bit. Okay.
God is looking for a man. A perfect man was in his mind when he created Adam, the first man. And just because Adam chose to rebel does not mean that God gave up on his plan. In today's show, we're going to learn from 3 men in the Bible and uncover the flaw they all share and discover God's solution for man. Let's get into it.
Kind of cut it off there. I don't like that.
Let's get into it.
What happened there?
Let's get into it. Let's get into it. Discover God's solution for man. Let's get into it.
Don't like that.
Hey guys, so we have been examining God's original plan for the first man, Adam.
I'm going to do the same thing, only the only change I'm going to make this time will be the EQ. Being stubborn with the copy. Not letting me copy it. Okay then. Analyzing all 31 clips right now. That will take a minute. Going to let this run for a bit, and I'll be right back. back. Okay, so that is a limitation that I wasn't aware of. Interesting. Okay, so here's what I'm going to do. Turn that off.
Not mean that God gave
Try this. I don't know that's going to let us voice enhance. Let's see. It did. Yay. Okay.
was in his mind when he created Adam, the first man, and just because Adam chose to rebel,
But that's no good. Yeah, that's not what I want at all. Actually do a bass boost.
God is looking for a man. A perfect man was in his mind when he created Adam.
And I don't care for it exactly. Let's go to the 31 band again. The vocal range is mostly between 1K and 2K, with a little bit of overtone or undertones and overtones above and beyond, above and below. But rarely do you actually need anything down here unless those overtones are just too soft, and so that may be the case in this situation.
God is looking for a man, a perfect man. Was in his mind when he
Let's try that again. Why is this being stupid? Mainly eyeballing this, but a lot of experience has told me to know where to do. And the other thing that I have learned is that you never want to do too much boost or cut. You just want to nudge it a little bit, because if you have to do, if I had to have this spiked all the way up, then there's something seriously wrong with the audio that's there. Let's see.
the first man, and just because Adam chose to rebel does not mean that God gave up on his plan.
Okay, so I like that. Let's go ahead and save this as a preset. If it'll let me, and it's not, of course. Well, frick.
Created Adam, the first man, created Adam, the first man, and just God, let's get into it.
I think it's the plugin.
Get into it.
And whenever it processes, it will be fine. Okay. Let's do it. Okay. We're going to go ahead and send this to compressor. I'll start working the audio only version. Just is what it is sometimes. Okay. There we go. Okay. And so what I did last time, which worked really easily, was I did this and created a new compound clip. Do it this way. Oh, I forgot something. Need to add the thing at the tail. So we're going to stop this. It's also going to give me the chance to maybe do the EQ on the compound clip, which would work in theory. Okay, that's canceling. I'm mad at that. Okay, let's.
The first man. And just because Adam chose to
Do the same thing over here.
chapters of Genesis in the Garden of Eden. Now, Adam was created and designed to be the pattern
turned on continuous tracking of my heartbeat earlier, and it drained my Apple Watch battery. That's always fun. Okay, so I think I have that the way I want it. There we go.
In the Garden of Eden. Now, Adam was created and
Okay. So that looks good, sounds good, but I do have an outro clip. Okay, Berto just got here to pick up some squash, so I'll be right back. And we're back. Okay. Giant squash had to be shared, so we shared it. Okay, so what I'm needing is...
Hey guys, I wrote a book that went on to become a bestseller. It's called The Standard Discovery.
Yeah, this one was only... Yeah, that's right. Okay.
Tell us what you would like us to. Hey guys, I wrote a book that went on to become a bestseller. It's called The Standard. Hey guys, I wrote a book that went on to become a bestseller.
I am probably going to end up having him redo that one whenever he's actually using his good mic.
Hey guys, I'm
also using new headphones. I think that's affecting my ears as far as my EQ a little bit today. These new headphones are higher end. They're actually kind of pretty semi-standard for podcasters, so I'm thinking they're more right than maybe my ears are. I don't know, but let's.
Hey guys, Till then, let's raise the. Hey guys, I wrote a book that went on to become a bestseller. It's called The.
I think what's happening there is that the plugin I'm using for Declip, it's processing and cutting it off.
Raise the standard. Hey guys, I wrote a book that went on to become a bestseller. It's called The Standard, Discovering Jesus as the Standard for Masculinity. I would love for you to get this. It's available on Amazon right now. But if you visit standard59.com, you can get the first chapter of the book for free. I want to give you the chapter called Jesus Has to Raise the Standard. That on the next show. Until then, let's raise the. Hey guys.
Okay. I'm decently happy with that. Let's pull this out and pull that forward a little bit. this is going to work. What is it, Miles?
Show. Until then, let's raise the. Hey guys, I wrote a book that went on to become a bestseller. It's called The Standard: Discovering Jesus as the Standard for Masculinity. I would love for you to get this. It's available on Amazon right now. But if you visit standard59.com, you can get the first chapter of the book for free. I want to give you the chapter called Jesus Has a Plan. And you need a plan as well. There's specific areas in your life that you will be attacked in. How do I know? Because Jesus was attacked in these areas as well. Episodes, go ahead, like this video, subscribe to the channel, and continue to raise the standard.
Okay. So that's good for the video. Back over. Let's go to the audio. And I'll do this. Delete that. And place. Place.
To all the details on that on the next show. Until then, let's raise the standard. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If what you heard.
Okay, I will be checking those closely.
The map today at standard.
Okay. Now we can send a couple of these to compressor. So this one is going to be our MP3. Gotta find the source of that little squeak that I'm hearing in the background. I'll get around to it eventually. And then let's switch back over to. Hi, Kiyoshi. There we go. And away it goes. Sorry, that noise in the background is my cat rolling around in a Whole Foods paper bag. Darn cats. Okay, this is continuing. The video or the audio failed. Okay. Okay. Well, I have other ways of accomplishing that. It says it failed, but it's not showing that it failed. I don't know. Okay. I'm going to give it a few more moments and let it do its thing and see what happens. It might not like that declip function that I was. Okay. Well, I am wrapping this up, and this may be all I get done today. I've got plenty of other things going on that needs done. I'll continue to troubleshoot this a little bit, of course, and once that's done, I will be done for the day. Thanks for hanging out with me a little bit, Tony. Anybody else who views this, please subscribe or like my Facebook page or my Twitch, because I'm sending to all of those, and I'm probably going to continue to do that going for that, and we'll see how things go. Because why not? Broadcast in every corner of the universe. Anyway, thanks so much for tuning in, and I will talk to you next time, probably tomorrow afternoon.